मुखेडचे आणखी एक शोभा मॅडम पाटील मॅडम यांना अशी विनंती करतो की त्यांनी त्यांचा पुष्पगुच्छ व मोमेंटो देऊन सत्कार करावा. आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करण्यासाठी नांदेडहून मुद्दामहून आलेल्या डॉक्टर सारिकाताई झुंजारे यांचा सत्कार मी डॉक्टर शिल्पा चौधरी मॅडम यांना विनंती करतो की त्यांचा पुष्पगुच्छ व मोमेंटो देऊन सत्कार करावा. डॉक्टर प्रीतीताई कत्रुवार यांचा सत्कार ढगे दबडे यांना अशी विनंती करतो की त्यांनी त्यांचा सत्कार करावा. उपस्थित माझ्या मिसेस पत्नी यांचा सत्कार मी आरती पांचाळ मॅडमना असे विनंती करतो की त्यांनी त्यांचा सत्कार करावा. मुखेडच्या दुसऱ्या स्त्रीरोग तज्ज्ञ आरती पाटील मॅडम यांचा सत्कार प्रिया खंडागळे मॅडमना विषयी विनंती करतो की त्यांनी त्यांचा सत्कार करा. नाही त्यांचे नाव माहीत नाही. आपल्या मुखेडचे दुसरे स्त्रीरोग तज्ज्ञ डॉक्टर खंडागळे सर यांचा सत्कार डॉक्टर इंगोले सरांना अशी विनंती करतो की त्यांनी त्यांचा सत्कार करावा. सर यांचा सत्कार हिमगेरे सरांना अशी विनंती करतो की त्यांनी त्यांचा सत्कार करावा. त्यानंतर या कार्यक्रमाचं प्रास्ताविक डॉक्टर ज्योती मस्केले मॅडम यांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी या कार्यक्रमाचं प्रास्ताविक करावं.
आजच्या कार्यक्रमाच्या अध्यक्षा डॉक्टर वडील मॅडम, आदरणीय व्याख्यात्या, प्रमुख पाहुणे आणि इथे जमलेल्या सर्वच डॉक्टर्स, प्रस्तावनेसाठी मी या ठिकाणी उभी आहे. खरं तर हा प्रत्येक कार्यक्रमाचा रुटीन भाग आहे, परंतु आलेल्या नवीन पाहुण्यांसाठी आमची वैद्यकीय संस्था आणि IMA यांची ओळख व्हावी या उद्देशासाठी मी या ठिकाणी उभी आहे. तसं पाहिलं तर आपली मुखेड येथील वैद्यकीय संस्था ही आज साधारण 28 वर्ष पूर्ण झालेली आहेत. 1993मध्ये त्यावेळी मुखेड शहरातील असलेले जे काही आदरणीय ज्येष्ठ धन्वंतरी आहेत, डॉक्टर पुंडे सर, डॉक्टर कोटगिरे सर, सीतानगरे सर, इंगोले सर, स्वामी सर, हिमगिरे सर, असे अनेक जे काही ज्येष्ठ धन्वंतरी आणि ज्येष्ठ डॉक्टर्स आदरणीय होते, त्यांनी वैद्यकीय संस्थेची सुरुवात केली आणि स्थापना केली. आज 28 वर्षानंतर ह्या छोट्याशा वैद्यकीय संस्थेचं अतिशय विलोभनीय आणि मोठा असं वटवृक्षामध्ये रूपांतर झालेलं आहे. फक्त वैद्यकीय क्षेत्रातीलच नव्हे तर अनेक सामाजिक, राजकीय आणि वेगवेगळ्या जे काही क्षेत्रामधील सर्वच कार्यक्रमांचा समावेश आपण या वैद्यकीय संस्थेच्या मार्फत करत असतो. मुखेड शहरातीलच नव्हे तर आपल्या महाराष्ट्रातील, भारतामधील येणाऱ्या जे काही नैसर्गिक आपत्ती आहेत, भूकंप, सुनामी किंवा आत्ताच आपण ज्यातून गेलो अशी कोविड, अशा जे काही अनेक आपत्ती आहेत, त्या आपत्तीमध्ये सुद्धा आपल्या वैद्यकीय संस्थेने सर्वसामान्य जनतेला यथायोग्य अशी मदत केलेली आहे. आणि मला सांगायला आनंद वाटतो की आमच्या वैद्यकीय संस्थेतील जे काही सदस्य आहेत ते फक्त वैद्यकीय क्षेत्रातच नव्हे तर सामाजिक, राजकीय आणि अशा अनेक क्षेत्रांमध्ये त्यांनी अगदी गौरवास्पद कार्य केलेलं आहे. आणि आजच्या ह्या वैद्यकीय संस्थेचा स्थापनेचा मूळ उद्देश असा होता की कंटिन्युअस मेडिकल एज्युकेशन म्हणजे CMEसाठी, की आपले जे काही डॉक्टर्स आहेत, वैद्यकीय संस्थेचे जे काही सदस्य आहेत, त्यांना रुटीन प्रॅक्टिसमध्ये आपल्याला अपडेट होता यावं. प्रत्येक क्षेत्रातील फील्डमधील, फॅकल्टीमधील जे काही अपडेट नॉलेज आहे त्याचं माहिती व्हावी या उद्देशाने वैद्यकीय संस्थेचा स्थापना केलेली होती. फक्त वैद्यकीय क्षेत्रातीलच नव्हे तर अनेक क्षेत्रातील सामाजिक, राजकीय अशा सर्वच कार्यक्रमांचं आपण वैद्यकीय संस्थेच्या माध्यमातून आयोजन करत असतो. ब्लड डोनेशनसारखी मोठी चळवळ डॉक्टर पुंडे सरांच्या पुढाकारातून आपण काय म्हणतो त्याला ब्लड डोनेशनचा आपण कॅम्प नेहमी आयोजित करत असतो की ज्यामुळे मुखेड शहरातील नव्हे तर नांदेड जिल्ह्यामधील रुग्णांना त्याचा चांगला फायदा व्हावा. आजच्या CMEकडे वळलं तर आजच्या CMEचा जे काही विषय आहेत एकतर इन्फर्टिलिटी आणि PCOS पॉलिसिस्टिक ओव्हॅरियन सिंड्रोम. तर आपण पाहतो की रुटीनली प्रॅक्टिसमध्ये या संदर्भातील अनेक पेशंट असतात. आजची नवीन जी काही आपली लाईफस्टाईल होती आहे किंवा जे हॉर्मोनल चेंजेस होत आहेत त्यामुळे आणि जे काही खाण्याच्या आपल्या एक्सरसाइजचे जे काही दैनंदिन आपलं आहे त्यामुळे PCOSचे पेशंट्स पण फक्त टीनेजर्सपासून सर्वच वयोगटातील महिला आपण पाहतो की PCOSपासून आणि प्रामुख्याने इन्फर्टिलिटीपासून ग्रस्त आहेत. तर आजच्या आपल्या CMEसाठी लाभलेल्या डॉक्टर कत्रुवार मॅडम आणि डॉक्टर सारिका झुंजारे मॅडम त्याबद्दल आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करणार आहेतच. त्यांचं मी वैद्यकीय संस्थेच्या वतीनं हार्दिक स्वागत करते. आणि आमच्या वैद्यकीय संस्थेबद्दल असं सांगायचं की पाहिलं तर एक छोटंसं कुटुंब आणि पाहिलं तर एक मोठी चळवळ आहे. कारण कुटुंबातील कोणत्याही सदस्याला कुठल्याही पद्धतीची काहीही अडचण हो, मग वैद्यकीय क्षेत्रात प्रॅक्टिस करताना असो किंवा मग समाजामध्ये वावरत असताना आलेली कुठली पण अडचण असो, आमच्या वैद्यकीय संस्थेच्या कोणत्याही सदस्याला जर अडचण आली तर प्रत्येकच सिनियर्स असो किंवा कलिग्ज असो अगदी हिरिरीने मदत करतात. त्यामुळे आम्हाला वैद्यकीय संस्था एक कुटुंब आहे. आणि चळवळ ह्यासाठी की सर्वच क्षेत्रामध्ये वैद्यकीय संस्था पुढाकार घेते आणि त्यामुळे वैद्यकीय संस्था फक्त वैद्यकीय क्षेत्राशी नव्हे तर अनेक जे काही आमचे सुप्रभात वगैरे मित्रमंडळ आहेत आणि बाहेर सामाजिक संस्था आहेत त्यांच्याशी सुद्धा संलग्न आहे वैद्यकीय संस्था. आणि त्यामुळे एक जसं पाहिलं तर सामाजिक क्षेत्रामध्ये किंवा आजकाल कुठलाही कार्यक्रम हो त्यामध्ये वैद्यकीय संस्था मुखेड ही हिरिरीने भाग घेत असते. त्यामुळे वैद्यकीय संस्थेचा भाग असल्याचा मला अभिमान वाटतो. आणि या ठिकाणी मी माझं प्रास्ताविक संपवते आणि पुढील कार्यक्रम मला साठी सरांना विचारण करते.
Speaker is Dr. Preeti Katruwar ma'am. Speaking about her, she has done her MBBS from GMC Yavatmal. She has done her DGO, DNB and DFP from Nanavati Hospital, Mumbai. She has been awarded for Best Poster Presentation in AMOGS Conference, Mumbai, which was also a most appreciated poster in the conference. Her area of interest is high-risk pregnancy. Now she is going to speak about PCOS, which is also a most awaited topic which we all needed to know in depth. So I request ma'am to kindly give us knowledge and share her experiences also.
सरांनी आणि IMA ब्रांच मुखेडच्या सगळ्या तज्ज्ञांनी आम्हाला दोघींना इथे इन्व्हाइट केलं आणि आमचे काही एक्सपिरियन्सेस तुमच्यासोबत शेअर करायला सांगितले. त्याच्यासाठी सगळ्यांना मनापासून धन्यवाद. नाऊ कमिंग टू द टॉपिक विच इज पॉलिसिस्टिक ओव्हेरियन सिंड्रोम. इट इज द मोस्ट कॉमन endocrinological disorder in women of reproductive age group, accounting to almost 12 to 17% of incidence, and is the commonest cause of anovulatory infertility in females of reproductive age group. As a clinician, why we are supposed to know everything and anything about PCOS is because the spectrum of this disease varies from a wide range of age group, starting from the prepubertal girls, postmenarchal girls, adolescent girls, reproductive age females, and elderly female. That is the reason we are getting n number of cases, and it's so surprising that in India, almost every 10th female is suffering from polycystic ovarian disease. So what exactly it is? How we diagnose the condition? According to Rotterdam's criteria, amenorrhea or oligomenorrhea, that is the first one. Second one is hyperandrogenism, maybe clinical or biochemical evidence of hyperandrogenism. And third is sonological appearance of enlarged polycystic ovaries, about which we will talk later on during the treatment part. So what is the next? What is the pathophysiology of polycystic ovarian syndrome? To know it, we must discuss a few lines about how the normal physiological menstrual cycle happens. So at the end of menstruation, or during menstruation, when there are all the hormones which are low, that like estrogen, progesterone and inhibin, that causes a positive feedback on the anterior pituitary to secrete FSH, which now acts on the follicles, induces folliculogenesis, steroidogenesis. With increasing amount of FSH, there are certain autocrine, paracrine changes which are taking place inside the follicle, and to make a follicle receptive, and which is very important for a complete and successful lifespan of the follicle. With the increasing FSH, there is increasing estradiol secretion from the follicles, and this estradiol will also induce LH receptors on the granulosa cells, which is a prerequisite for a successful LH surge and then subsequently ovulation. So after around 14 days, with a rapid rise in the estradiol level, there is LH surge and ovulation occurs. After ovulation, there is corpus luteal formation, and it starts secreting progesterone hormone, and and with this, there is again a second level rise or second level peak in the estradiol level, with which constitutes a 14-day luteal phase, and at the end, and during which the hormones like FSH, LH are low, and at the end of that 14 days luteal phase, corpus luteal demise occurs, and there is low levels of estrogen and all the hormones are low, which is again a stimulus for the anterior pituitary to start a new cycle. So what is happening? What is happening in polycystic ovarian syndrome? Disturbances or variations in any of these can lead to disturbances in the ovulation and subsequent manifestations of polycystic ovarian disease. So there is hyperinsulinemia. There are many theories. One is hyperinsulinemia. Because there is before that there is insulin resistance, which is increased peripheral insulin resistance, because of this the pancreas gets stimulated to secrete more and more amount of insulin, which is not being used because the receptors on which insulin should act, they are not prepared for its action. So insulin levels rise, it acts on the liver to decrease the synthesis of SHBG, that is sex hormone binding globulins, which results in increased free androgens or sex hormones, that is androgens and estrogens. Apart from this, the increased insulin levels also stimulate the theca interna cells to start secreting more and more amount of androgens. So what is happening is there are more androgens, more insulin, and more estrogen. So it is inhibiting the FSH, and because there is no FSH, the follicles become atretic, follicles die, and there is no ovulation. And because there is no ovulation, there is no corpus luteal formation, and there is no progesterone. And we know, because if there is no progesterone, the estradiol, which is there in the circulation and which is increased now in presence of a low SHBG levels, there will be unlimited growth of the endometrium, and it is to such an extent that when it outgrows its blood supply, there is heavy shedding of the endometrium, which we call as heavy periods. This is one thing. Then there are certain other mechanisms which are central mechanisms, because menstrual cycle is a play of HPO axis. Everything starts from the hypothalamus and ends at the ovary, and then uterus is an end organ. So stress, anxiety, depression, or acute weight loss for that matter, they all cause the suppression of the GnRH. And because during stress there is increased release of corticotrophin releasing hormone, and then there is suppression of gonadotrophin releasing hormone pulsations. Again it is affecting the pituitary, again the same cycle of events start. So what is happening is there is hyperinsulinemia, there is increased sex hormones, and then resulting effect is there is loss of ovulation, irregular cycles. Because of increased levels of androgens, there is the clinical evidence of hyperandrogenism, that is hirsutism, acne, alopecia. What are the common signs of PCOS and what are the symptoms both together? Because of hyperandrogenism, there is acne, alopecia, hirsutism. And now what is the mechanism? Because there is increased sex hormone binding globulins, increased amount of insulin which is not acting, there are metabolic disturbances leading to excessive fat deposition. And this excess androgens which are there, they are in the adipose tissue or peripheral tissues, they get converted into the estrogens with the help of aromatase enzymes and leading to disturbances in the glucose mechanism, glucose metabolism, resulting into central obesity, the typical central obesity of polycystic ovarian syndrome patients, about which we will talk later on. Next. So this already we have seen about the insulin resistance. We have already learnt about the key hormonal disturbances in a patient with polycystic ovarians. One thing which is there, which we must consider, that in case of insulin resistance, there are two syndromes, type A syndrome and type B syndrome. In type A syndrome, there are mutations in the insulin receptor gene, and in type B syndrome, there are antibodies to the insulin receptor. So these two things should be taken into account, because if there are such patients, then they are likely to have insulin resistance, hyperinsulinemia, and subsequently polycystic ovarian syndrome. So typical symptoms is like patient of any age group, as I told earlier, starting from the puberty to adolescent, then reproductive age group female, and then elderly female. So irregular periods, prolonged periods like 2 months, 3 months, and followed by a very heavy bout of bleeding. Then patient may have symptoms like acne, hirsutism, alopecia. Those who are already married, they might get difficulty in conceiving, or those who have conceived, they might experience multiple abortions, because increased LH hormone has a toxic effect on the oocyte or the fertilized ovum. So that thing is there. Those who are able to conceive and proceed their pregnancy, they may develop gestational diabetes mellitus, and so on. So these are the things which we have to consider. And in elderly patients, again, excessive uterine bleeding, development of glucose intolerance, then overt type 2 diabetes mellitus. This is how we have to expect what patients are going to come to us, and how we have to investigate them. Now, coming to the etiology of PCOS, exact etiology actually is not known, but there are certain lifestyle changes, genetic, familiar, or environmental predispositions which may predispose a female to develop polycystic ovarian syndrome. And in nowadays, we are going through a lot of stress, lot of ambitions we have. मला हे करायचं आहे, मला ते करायचं आहे. स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम दॅट एज ऑफ 13 years, मला म्हणजे आय हॅव टू बी एक्सपर्ट इन द स्पोर्ट्स, आय हॅव टू बी एक्सपर्ट इन द स्कूल. सिन्स द एज ऑफ 12 years वी आर नाव गोईंग थ्रू द सेम सिच्युएशन. 11-12 म्हणजे 11-12 वर्षाच्या मुलांचं हे राहतं. वेन वी ग्रो लिटिल ओल्डर, मला कॉलेजमध्ये खूप चांगलं काहीतरी करायचं आहे. आफ्टर दॅट, after in married life किंवा career point of view, means every point nowadays, because the life is like very competitive nowadays. So stress, then anxiety, all these factors are contributing. And then our lifestyle, our great lifestyle, काहीतरी म्हणजे पिझ्झा, बर्गर, फ्रेंच फ्राईज, everything we are eating, we are even promoting indirectly we are promoting our kids, because when our kids demand, we never say no to them. You all must be experiencing, because saying no, तो जमाना सगळा गेला आता, की आपले आई बाबा आपल्याला सांगायचे नाही हे नाही म्हणून. पण आपलं काय कसं आहे की ठीक आहे जाऊ दे, बिकॉज वी आर बिझी, ठीक आहे जाऊ दे, मला पेशंट आहे तर काय मागवायचं ते मागवून घे. सो these things are mattering too much in the development of polycystic ovarian syndrome over a long period. When we are coming across with patient with all these symptoms and signs, what we are supposed to do? We usually come to the diagnosis, but at the same time we have to rule out the differential diagnosis. Like there might be just obesity, there might be hypothyroidism, there might be hyperprolactinemia, because hyperprolactinemia also give rise to, through the central mechanism, to increase in all these mechanical or these hormonal disturbances. So those things we have to keep in mind. And in prepubertal girls, or maybe just around puberty, one condition, that is non-classical congenital hyperplasia, that also we have to consider, though it is rare. So most common are hypothyroidism and hyperprolactinemia, obesity, apart from the polycystic ovarian syndrome. So how we diagnose it? As we discussed, there are Rotterdam's criteria for diagnosis of polycystic ovarian syndrome. Out of these 2 criteria, actually out of the 3, minimum 2 criteria should be present to label a patient as polycystic ovarian syndrome. On sonography, there should be at least 20 or more follicles ranging from a size of 2 to 9 millimeter with a central echogenic stroma, at least in one ovary. So that is how, with a typical string of pearl pattern. So that is, and that has to be a day 3 or day 4 in early follicular phase sonography, preferably a transvaginal sonography. This is how we diagnose it. This is the radiological diagnosis, but clinically, with a detailed history like menstrual history, the flow, pattern, duration, irregularity, last 3-4 cycles, how it were, then presence or and apart from this examination, apart from the history, even the drug history, family history of certain genetic diseases, that also we should inquire. And then general examination. General examination, we should do the routine like pulse, blood pressure, weight, height, and to calculate the BMI. And then any obvious presence or absence of any obvious thyroid swelling, presence of galactorrhea, and acanthosis nigricans, which are the dark velvety patches on the nape of the neck or underarms, and acne, hirsutism, or baldness, that all we should consider. Now something about BMI, because as we always say that PCOS मतलब कि वजन कमी करा, that one word we tell the patient, and then patient we feel that no I have done something for the patient. It's not like that. BMI, one way to assess the weight or obesity is BMI, but BMI doesn't take into account the central fat or visceral fat, which is the characteristic of polycystic ovarian syndrome. What we are supposed to do is measure the waist circumference. So waist circumference is a very easily detectable thing. It's very easy, just simple tape we require, and we have to take it at the level of at a midpoint between the lowest point part of the rib and the anterior superior iliac spine. The midpoint of this segment, at this level we have to take the waist circumference. A waist circumference of 80 centimeter or more is predictive of central or visceral obesity. And then another ratios like waist hip ratio, waist height ratio, those also are good predictors of visceral fat. So that is there. This is the clinical examination. Then systemic examination, perspicuum examination in married females, and pelvic examination to rule out any pelvic pathology. After that, what comes is the lab diagnosis. In a setup where the laboratories or the radioimmunoassays are not available, what we should do? How we will detect the hyperandrogenism? Simple test. Simple is presence of coarse dark hair on the in a male pattern distribution. But there are disadvantages, because I feel that this patient has got lot of hair, dark hair. She will feel that this, no, it's not like that. It's quite common nowadays. So this is like personal variation. So there are several scores or several methods to judge. One such score is FG score, which gives 9 different sides, and according to which there is a score which is 5 to 8. A score of more than 5 to 8 is diagnostic rather of hirsutism. And then acne and all those things we can always detect, and even the patient comes with a history. So that is the thing. So even when we don't have radioimmunoassays available at the tertiary or at local people or local levels, we can always detect from menstrual history, then waist circumference, and those scores for hirsutism. So I think diagnosis should not be very difficult, at least a primary diagnosis to start the treatment and to make the patient comfortable. And then what blood test you can do, if the setup is there and if the patient's affording capacity is there, then we can do certain hormonal assays like FSH, LH, prolactin. We have to rule out the thyroid disorders, and then androgen levels, androstenedione, to rule out other conditions, then 17-hydroxyprogesterone, DHEAS, n number of tests are available. But then depending upon the patient's affordability, we must decide about this test. And then sonography already we have discussed. So these are the investigations which we are supposed to do for a patient if we suspect polycystic ovarian disease. Now management. We will skip all these slides because these slides are telling us the importance of vitamin D in or role of hypovitaminosis D in hyperinsulinemia. So this PPAR delta and all those things, we need not go into the details of these things. Only thing we should remember is vitamin D should be supplemented. This is a very easy thing to remember. Apart from vitamin D, there are other vitamins also like vitamin B12, folate. Inositol is one thing which is coming up, and it has got a definitive role in the etiology of polycystic ovarian syndrome. Skip करा सगळं slides. पुढे जा. So we have taken the history, examined the patient, availability, depending upon the availability of blood test, we have come to the diagnosis. Now how we treat the patient. Basically treatment differs from last. Treatment depends on the age. Married, unmarried, in case of unmarried, adolescent or just prepubertal. In case of married, whether she is interested in conception or not, and then elderly. Accordingly, the treatments vary. But overall, diets. So basically, in all the patients, whatsoever age group they might be coming from, except the thin PCOS. Like you must be knowing now there are two things, thin PCOS and obese PCOS. In thin PCOS, everything is same except weight. Otherwise, management and all those things are same. Even in thin PCOS, we advise exercise because there is a disproportion of the fat and muscle. So exercise will correct that disproportion. So exercise is a must. So what is the key? Key is weight reduction and lifestyle management. Rather, I would say number 1 is weight reduction, lifestyle management, number 2 is weight reduction, lifestyle management, and number 3 is weight reduction, lifestyle management. So much importance we have to give for this because patients are adamant, they will not do, they will not listen to. नाही आम्ही करतो एक्सरसाइज, आम्हाला नाही आमचं जास्त होतच नाही करणं, मला कॉलेज आहे, मुलींचं हे बायकांचं मला काम आहे. बट वी हॅव टू काउन्सिल देम अँड आय थिंक विथ अ गुड काउन्सिलिंग दे विल डेफिनेटली डू इट. So what we are supposed to do, first is the diet. Diet is like avoid all the fries, then junk food, those colas, ice creams, cakes, all those things, and and even in few, not in our setup, but then smoking, alcohol, all these things should be stopped. A good diet is homemade diet, low fat, low carbohydrate, more protein, more dietary fiber. It should be a good mix of micronutrients as well as macronutrients with vitamins and minerals. So this is what, and this is very easy. आपले आई, आजी, आजोबा, आपले पणजी पणजोबा जे खात होते तेच आपल्याला खायचं आहे. म्हणजे अगदी एका शब्दात सांगायचं झाल्यास सात्विक आहार घ्यायचा, बाहेरचं काही खायचं नाही, फ्रोजन फूड खायचं नाही, रेडीमेड फूड खायचं नाही, पोल्युटंट्सवाले किंवा प्रिझर्वेटिव्हजवाले कुठलंच काही खायचं नाही. अँड इट इज व्हेरी इझी. सकाळ संध्याकाळचे 2 जेवण, कारण ते लोक तेच करत होते. आपले जे आजी आजोबा सगळे लोक आहेत, दे हॅव बीन डुईंग दिस अँड दे हॅव प्रूव्ड की असं काही म्हणजे दिस ऑल थिंग्स विल डेफिनेटली हॅव अ रोल in the genesis of so many n number of diseases. So diet is something which is, and this slide shows what we should do and what we should not do. And diet, Apart from diet, exercise. What sort of exercise we should tell the patient? Because we know exercise also is important. So exercise will build up the muscle mass, reduce the fat deposition. It will also improve insulin resistance. It will also help some ways to regularizing the cycles. And then there is an feeling of overall well-being in the patient with exercise. So that must be there. At least minimum 30 to 45 minutes walk, brisk walk rather, per day. Or then you can join a gym or which is available, and nowadays so many number of exercises, so many techniques which are available for reduce one specific portion, one specific area of the body, and number at a click everything is available to everybody. So ask them to go through it. Then yoga, pranayam, breathing exercises, those things are also very, very important. Don't underestimate our ancient Indian yoga and ancient Indian measures for this, because we cannot give any kind of treatment for more than 1 year. Remember, for minimum whenever we are telling, that is only for few cycles, like we say 4 to 6 cycles, 6 to 12 cycles. After that what? After that these things only are going to be of use to the patient. So we, from the very first visit, we have to emphasize that you have to do this exercise. Take this exercise at a daily 1 pill and do it. Even तुमच्या घरी स्वतःचं जरी लग्न असेल किंवा दुसऱ्या कोणाचं लग्न असेल तरी पण तुम्ही एक्सरसाइज करा. This is what I usually tell to my patients, and maximum patients follow this, because if you tell them intensively, if you tell them with lot of concern for their own health, I think they must follow this. So exercises, and then so lifestyle, exercise. Then another one thing is sleep. We must ask the patient to have a good sleep. Then शांत, अगदी छान झोप झाली पाहिजे. जे आपले जुने लोक म्हणायचे की लवकर निजे लवकर उठे त्यासीच आरोग्य सुख संपत्ती लाभे, हे सगळं आहेच ह्याच्यामध्ये काही वादच नाही आहे. कारण ॲज आय सेड, देर इज नो मेडिसिन विच वी कॅन गिव्ह फॉर अ प्रोलॉंग पिरियड, स्पेशली दीज हॉर्मोन्स अँड ऑल. सो दीज थिंग्स आर इम्पॉर्टंट अँड वी हॅव टू एम्फसाइज दिस थिंग. कारण हे सगळं रुटीन आहे. हे तर काय असं काही नाही, ह्याच्यात काही नाही. आजकाल सगळं वेस्टर्नायझेशन झालेलं आहे. आपल्याला सगळ्या गोष्टींचं एवढं अट्रॅक्शन आहे की सगळं नाईटच्या पार्टी, सगळं लेट नाईट्स, मग हे करायचं ते करायचं, त्याच्यामध्ये बेसिक ज्या गोष्टी आहेत त्या आपण सगळ्या हरवून चाललेल्या आहेत आपल्या. आणि आपण पण बिझी असतो, आपण पण मुलांना खूप जास्त त्या गोष्टी त्यांच्यामध्ये इन्कल्केट करू शकत नाही. बट वेन अ पेशंट कम्स to you as a doctor, as a clinician, it is your duty to tell them all these things. So this is that thing. And then what about the treatment of acne or hirsutism? For acne, then they are suggesting that general instructions like washing the face regularly, avoiding skin irritants, or if there are multiple pimples, don't squeeze them. And then for excessive hair growth, there's some mechanical methods like epilation or waxing or laser, those who are able to afford that. And for both these, then there are hormones. So what is the medical management of polycystic ovarian syndrome? Medical management, again, depending upon the age group, depending upon the need of the patient, there are certain drugs like metformin, which is an insulin sensitizer. It is a bigonide. Metformin can be started for patients with obesity, for patients with hyperinsulinemia, for PCOS patients who are getting irregular periods. It has got a widespread use and widespread effects. With side effects are there, but if you start the dose at a lower dose and progressively increase, the side effects are much less. So what we have to do is 500 milligram tablet per day we have to start during the main meal of the day, and which has to be subsequently weekly or bi-weekly increased by almost 500 to 1000 milligram per day to a maximum of around 2.5. But usually in clinical practice we don't need to give that much, because with metformin and with all those things like exercise, lifestyle changes, many patients improve. And what are the side effects of metformin? Metformin has got general gastrointestinal side effects like nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, bloating, and diarrhea, and rarely a fatal side effect like lactic acidosis can occur with the metformin use. And before starting, renal function assessment should be done if indicated. And few studies have shown that metformin causes malabsorption of vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 supplementation should also be considered during metformin therapy. Now another agent is progesterone, the plain progesterone. Why plain progesterone? Because there is always elevated estrogen levels which is acting on the endometrium, And there are few females, there are few adolescent girls, they don't have hyper androgenism effects, just plain irregular periods and nothing else. So to oppose the action of estrogen in these girls, we can give progesterone. One such routinely prescribed molecule is medroxyprogesterone acetate. 10 milligram of that we can give for first 10 days of the period of the month, and that can be continued for a few cycles. It will regularize the cycle. When the patient has monthly bleeding, she feels comfortable. No, I'm getting my menses properly. That means everything is all right. So that is. But then, if at all there is evidence of hyperandrogenism, you have to switch to some other preparation. Third one is the combined. Last slide. Third one is the combined oral contraceptive pills. It is widely available, widely used, easily available, easily acceptable by the patient, but there are side effects also. Those side effects, minor side effects occur and major side effects at times can occur, but they are very costly for the patient. So, cautious approach to use oral contraceptives has to be there, considering the indications and contraindications mostly. So oral contraceptives, they also have the same mechanism. They will regularize the menstrual cycle, they will reduce the hormone level, they will increase the SHBG levels, so that there is decreased free levels of estrogen. Because the cycles are regularized, she will feel better that I am getting the cycle. Then there is that also will take care of the unopposed effect of estrogen on the endometrium, thus preventing the long-term consequences of that. So oral contraceptives. Now, n number of preparations of oral contraceptives are available. There are certain guidelines of using combined oral contraceptives after puberty. For first 2 to 3 years, we should not use any hormones. मेनी टाइम्स 12-13 वर्षाची मुलगी येते, आता 6 महिन्यापूर्वी बाई ही हुशार झाली किंवा 1 वर्षापूर्वी हुशार झाली, मग थांबतच नाही आहे. मग आता काय करायचं, बरोबर येत नाही आहे पाळी वगैरे, दुसऱ्या कुठल्या तरी डॉक्टरने आम्हाला ह्या गोळ्या दिल्या होत्या. Don't think of giving oral contraceptives or hormones unless it is really clinically very badly warranted. Don't give. First is counsel the patient, improve her nutrition, give her some hematinic or something, and I think regularly, if improvement of diet, then exercise and counseling first, most important. There should not be any problem as such, because first 2 to 3 years are the maturation of hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian axis, during which we don't need any disturbances, especially hormonal interference from outside. So that is thing. Second thing is, in adolescent girls, there is peak bone mass development which is occurring during that period. So giving these hormones during that particular period may hamper the development of peak bone mass. So that also we should avoid. Then patients who have diabetes mellitus, excessive blood sugar levels, in those patients also cautious use of, or maybe even low dose use of. Then patients who have contraindications to estrogen, that is thromboembolism, cardiac problems, in such patients better to avoid. The PCOS Society of India has, along with the several multidisciplinary facilities, they have decided certain rules, and they have commented that oral contraceptives, combined oral contraceptive pills should be used in few cases with lot of caution and stringent monitoring of the patient. And before that, there should be enough counseling regarding the side effects, availability, and the availability of not only the combined plus progesterone only also. Because nowadays patients are all learned patients. They will know की अरे हे कसं काय, मग आमच्या घरी तसं काहीतरी झालं होतं, कोणाला तरी रक्ताच्या गाठी झाल्या होत्या, मग तुम्ही ह्या गोळ्या दिल्या, मग कसं काय वगैरे, तर तुम्ही तर आम्हाला विचारलंच नाही, मग असं झालं वगैरे. एव्हरीथिंग दे नो. देर इज सो मच इन्फॉर्मेशन, ज्ञानाचं भांडार आहे इंटरनेटवर, त्याच्यामुळे प्रत्येकाला काही ना काही माहिती असतं. म्हणून आपली रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी खूप वाढते ॲज अ क्लिनिशियन, की काय द्यायचं आणि काय नाही. एखादी ट्रीटमेंट, एखादी गोळी द्यायला या महिन्यात न देता पुढच्या महिन्यात दिली तर चालते, पण ती व्यवस्थित अभ्यास करून दिलेली केव्हाही चांगली, रादर दॅन लँडिंग ऑफ द पेशंट इन टू सर्टन ग्रेव कॉम्प्लिकेशन्स. So this is thing. Another, then third generation progesterones, like previous pills used to contain ethinyl estradiol and levonorgestrel, but now newer generation progesterones like norgestimate, gestodine, and desogestrel, cyproterone acetate, they all have effect. These actually have the anti-androgenic effect. So patients with hirsutism or hyperandrogenism, they will benefit from this effect, from these medicines. And there are several studies which have studied the effects of combined oral contraceptive pills, only combined oral contraceptive pills with metformin. Even in combined oral contraceptive pills, the different progesterone composition like desogestrel, cyproterone acetate and drospirenone. And at the end of these studies, they have summarized that 6 to 12 months treatment with these combined contraceptives has shown good results with respect to the cycle regularization, hyperandrogenism, everything, all the effects of polycystic ovarian syndrome. But with one preparation, that is cyproterone acetate, they have mentioned that the effect of increase in SHBG, that is sex hormone binding globulin, and and androgen levels was much better as compared to the desogestrel and drospirenone. So cyproterone acetate has got a definite role in these patients. Now this is something regarding combined oral contraceptives, and there are how to use, and that all we know actually. Now if the patient wants to conceive, what we should do? We have to give her ovulation induction. The available drugs are clomiphene citrate and letrozole. Letrozole is an aromatase inhibitor, and clomiphene citrate is a selective estrogen receptor modulator. Clomiphene citrate is considered cheaper, is first line drug, and which has to be started with 100 milligram per day from day 3 or day 4 of the cycle for next 5 days, and we have to inform the patient to take the tablet at the same time for all the 5 days, and it has got good result. There are some side effects which can be very well managed, and the mechanism of clomiphene citrate is it has got estrogen receptor competition at various levels like hypothalamus, pituitary, ovary, then uterus, endometrium, cervix, vagina. So all these things help to cause the FSH-LH release and subsequently ovulation. So it is a very good drug. Only disadvantage is multiple pregnancies. So I think those who don't have any children, multiple pregnancies is a boon for them, at least I feel. काहीच नसताना 2 जर का मिळाले तर कोणाला पण चांगलं वाटेल. Of course there are complications of multiple pregnancies, but that is there. So this is for clomiphene citrate and aromatase inhibitor, that is letrozole. Those patients who are not even getting any results with clomiphene citrate, like clomiphene citrate CC resistance or CC failure patients, what we are supposed to do? We can use GnRH analogs for those patients. But disadvantage of GnRH analogs is that they are expensive, they cannot be used for long term, then they are associated with hypoestrogenic effect, bone mineral density effect. So limited patients, especially IVF madam, can tell better about GnRH analogs. So that option is there. And the last is the surgical method. Surgical method is like laparoscopic ovarian drilling. So laparoscopic ovarian drilling, it is like we puncture with a unipolar needle. There are multiple follicles in the ovary. We puncture 4 or 5 follicles. It depends actually, it is again subjective. Some people puncture a lot of, some people, but there is rule of 4. Generally they say that rule of 4. 4 follicles should be punctured. Each follicle touch time is 4 seconds and at around 40 watts. But of course there are subjective variations, and even patient to patient we have to change it. So how it helps? It helps the ovarian follicle to respond better to the outside ovulation inducing agents, and also there are better results than many of the times, and the lasting effect of this hormonal correction, it will have a lasting effect, because when we give the hormones from outside, that is for a short term, but these effects will be lasting. So that is one advantage. But another disadvantage is that we can induce an iatrogenic adhesion as well as ovarian insufficiency. So this also has to be properly counseled to the patient, and after discussing only the thing has to be done. And many of the times it is usually done for infertile patients. Already for infertility patients we are doing a diagnostic hysterolaparoscopy. During that time, if we find multiple follicles, we just puncture the follicle. So it's not a separate procedure as such. So these are the things. So in a nutshell, PCOS is a challenge for all of us, all the clinicians. A thorough knowledge of the pathophysiology, treatment modality is a must for all of us. And patient counseling, patient cooperation they are the backbone of the treatment of the successful treatment of polycystic ovarian syndrome. Thank you very much.